I can't believe I'm doing this right now. So the abject frustration you're hearing in my voice is because this is my second take on this video, because I recorded all of it without realizing I had OBS muted. So yeah, I recorded multiple parts, went through a whole long rambling thing and talking about Armored Core Updates history, and I had it on mute the whole time. So here is try number 2, because yeah, dummy me didn't realize it was muted. All right, anyways, greetings Ravens, Cleric here. I wanted to share some information with you in regards to Armored Core updates. As some of you may have seen, the official Armored Core Twitter had posted about the rank reset coming this week on the 19th, and also contained a hint about patch 1.07, something of a surprise. Well, the tweet has since been deleted, and the link in the update notes talking about that very thing now goes to our 404 page. So I guess we will have to see what happens. As it stands right now, Armored Core 6 patch-wise has had version 1.02, 0.03, 0.03.1, 0.04, 0.04.1, 0.05, 0.06, and 0.06.01. Why that one's 0.01 and not just 0.1 like the others, no idea, it just is. With the potential of a 1.07 coming out, that would put us on the top end of the most updates or regulations released for an Armored Core game. Pretty similar to Armored Core Verdict Day, which also got up to 1.07, though technically we have a couple more updates because we've had some hotfix patches that kind of made some adjustments too, but it's about the same. But that though, I thought it would be good to give everyone a kind of a rundown of how update patches or version changes through Armored Core's previous titles have been handled. So, when I was looking this information up, I was kind of surprised to find that this information was a little bit difficult to find. There was no kind of one succinct place where you kind of get all of it, let alone its release history and like dates information, unless, you know, there is a place and I just somehow completely missed it, and I'm sure like the second or third comments is gonna be like, oh, you're gonna go on here and go on information and I'm just an idiot and missed it. You know what, if you do find that, by all means post it in the comments. I would appreciate it because I'm an idiot for missing it. So I had to spend hours, and I do mean hours, going through the WayBack machine to get all this information from the Japanese player site for Armored Core 4, 4 Answer, 5, and Verdict Day. So, appreciate the fact I had to do this for a second time, and if you appreciate the fact that it took multiple hours through the WayBack machine to find the correct links to even make this video in the first place, please think about liking and subscribing, given the fact that most of the people who watch my content are not subscribed, and who knows, maybe even consider becoming a member. Cheapest option is only 99 cents a month. You can help support me for a whole $1. For the sake of consistency though, for this video I will be following the update path for the Japanese version, as I think it makes the most sense and it kind of has the most like succinct and consistent, you know, update path as far as how the game works, as opposed to the global release of the games. And plus, and as it is right now, AC6 is global. It's not different between different, you know, locations. It's the same across the board, unlike the previous games. And so to kind of give a little bit of easiness of following it, I'm going to follow the Japanese versions. In fact, it was so different in other patches. For example, in Armored Core 5, Armored Core version 5, version 1.4 in Japan is the same thing as version 1.2 here in the United States. So yeah, a little bit weird, so I'm going to be sticking with the Japanese version for the sake of ease. And now I got a call from work. I'll be back. All right, no problem. All right, thanks. Good luck. Bye. Nothing like getting a call from work late at night when you're in the middle of working a video on a second try. Okay, let's keep going with this. We're going to leave off again. Oh yeah, 1.4 in Japan is 1.2 here in the United States. Fine. I think I already mentioned that. Now, we're also be following the PS3 update path. The reason we're doing PS3 versus Xbox 360, Xbox kind of had some funky release times. Sometimes they're about the same as the PS3. Other times they were pretty erratically different. So for the, again, sake of consistency, going with PS3. Armored Core 4 was released in Japan on December 21st, 2006. To kind of give you a point of reference, I was mentioning earlier, it was released in the US on March 20, 2007, and the EU, June 22nd, 2007. Also, funny of note here, this game was self-published out in Japan by From Software. In the US, it was published by Sega, and in the EU market, it was published by 505 Games. Now, when it comes to these updates or these patches, they weren't called patches back in these games, they were called regulation versions or regulation updates. So first and not foremost, we have Armored Core 4 on December 28, 2006, got regulation version 1.10. It improved OB and PA recovery, it improved PA attenuation of bullet weapons due to the improved PA recovery, an improved PA performance of light parts, overall downward correction of bullet defense effects, and improved efficiency of some tunes, and adjustment of some EN weapons. For the update patches for Armored Core 4 were pretty bare bones, not a lot of good specifics, but just kind of gave some general idea of what they were doing. On February 2nd, 2007, Regulation 1.20 was released. It was a review of the real bullet weapons, especially the impact force and readjustment of EN weapons, improvement of head unit stability, reduced EN consumption of frame parts, reduction of FCS parallel processing performance, and reduction of stabilizer unit load. On February 27, 2007, Regulation version 1.3 was released. Improved AP and defensive power arm of leg parts, specifically the heavy and medium versions, and improved the movement performance of medium and heavy arm parts. I guess they figured the arm parts and leg parts just needed a general improvement on the heavy and medium side. Improved the thrust of main and over boosters, improved performance according to weapon characteristics, while including some, and a review of performance of some prominent parts. In other words, they're looking at the parts that were kind of meta-defining at the time and making the needed adjustments. Now, keep in mind, up until this point, these are all just being done in Japan because the game has not been released elsewhere as of yet. Now, May 14, 2007, Regulation version 1.40 was released. It improved the rotation performance of legs, except for some leg parts. Yes, thank goodness for better turning speed. Review the performance of medium weight arm parts and medium weight leg parts, overall balance review of some weapon parts, and focused on some parts of particularly low performance. Whereas before, the previous regulation was kind of tuning down some of the overpowered parts. They were kind of tuning up the parts that were kind of underused. On July 5th, 2007, Regulation version 1.50 was released. Overall balance review of the booster parts, overall balance review of the FC and generator parts, and just kind of worked on some consistencies across for matchmaking. I think it's pretty cool. They started making adjustments to boosters, FCSs, and generators, something really hadn't touched it up until this point. And then the last regulation, September 13, 2007, was version 1.60. They made some adjustments for arm weapons and back weapon parts. They made some performance enhancements for weapon arm parts. Yeah, love weapon arms in 4th gen. Adjustments for missile parts and reduction of recoil from shooting and being hit. Yeah, the recoil was pretty nasty sometimes in 4th gen, and especially for Armored Core 4. And this was a much needed patch to kind of make a little more, player agency when it came to PvP matches. So that's it for Armored Core 4. Now on to Armored Core 4 Answer. Armored Core 4 Answer was released on March 19, 2008 in Japan. The other parts of the world wouldn't see it for 6+ months. And the international distributor for this one, in all case for all the regions other than Japan, was Ubisoft. On April 14, 2008, we saw Regulation version 1.10. We saw a missile part performance adjustment, rebalancing of some weapon parts, especially those with low performance. In other words, they had to buff some weapons, and they kind of made some adjustments to some base parts and also performance adjustment for assault armor. That's all there was in this patch. There wasn't a whole lot to even mention for this regulation update, and that's pretty much all there was. On June 20, 2008, Regulation version 1.20 was released. In this regulation file, the redistribution this time was kind of, they based it on, it says right here, it says they based it on the Armored Core 4 version 1.60 reference for version 1.20 to kind of get some balancing here. For those who are unaware, they were kind of making adjustments. We'll see a little bit later when they talk about it specifically. They actually mentioned it in version 1.30. An overall performance review of base parts, overall balance adjustment for generators, FCS, and boosters, hooray internals, an overall balance review of weapon parts, and parameter adjustments related to aircraft behavior. Now, this is where it gets kind of interesting. December 18, 2008, Regulation version 1.3 was released. The latest version, we made adjustments to make online play more comfortable by referring to opinions and requests we received from our customers. So yes, over in Japan, we got to give feedback. Now, like you saw, there was that feedback survey for Armored Core 6 back in the day that was only released in Japan, even though a lot of us filled it out anyways here in the US by using a translator. The same thing happened back then. They did some player adjustments based on player feedback, which was only the feedback that was released over in Japan. And now I'm not going to read all of this because there is a ton in this regulation version update. They adjusted aircraft speed, their review of energy efficiency, the adjustment of blade performance, adjustment of assault armors, they adjusted laser weapons, overall adjustments for cores and arms and legs, and they did all kinds of things for FCS adjustments for slower FCSs, lock ranges, they adjusted radars. I mean, you name it, there's a ton. There is so much in this patch. So yeah, I'll have links in the description below to the WayBack machine links for all of these. So we'll take a look at them more specifically, but I am not reading all that off. It's a lot to read through. All right, so on April 17, 2009, Regulation version 1.4 was released in version for Armored Core 4 Answer. Once again, it's referring to the fact these are adjustments made based on player feedback. The main adjustments was they adjusted unit speed. They kept the overall speed the same, but they changed the acceleration and deceleration times. They made some adjustment to the core adjustment parts for the heavy parts. They made some adjustment to the arms for the medium and light ones, especially the weapon arms. They made related adjustments to their attack power. Legs, they made some adjustments for ones that had a little too good performance, kind of nerfing them a little bit, and they made some adjustments to FCSs and boosters to kind of just make them a little bit better and more versatile, and they made some adjustments to essentially every single part of the game, given the fact this is pretty much the last we're going to see. We saw a lot of bullet speed and overall performance enhanced, and like the speed of a lot of weapons got increased, the bullet speed got increased in general, because this is kind of when you got some domination of like certain like battle rifle, like, you know, Motor Cobra, you start seeing some of that craziness with that. So we're kind of making some adjustments to other weapons to kind of compete with them through the lag shields people seem to have. So a lot of just general weapon speed adjustments for a lot of the weapons to make them hit more often through lag. We saw some back unit adjustments for a lot of these things too. A lot of energy consumptions. A number of bullets, again, decrease the bullet speed, or increase the bullet speed again for a lot of the back parts. Reduced energy consumption, ECM performance generators to kind of just make them more versatile as well. Lots and lots of adjustments made in version 1.3 and 1.4 for 4 Answer to kind of just overall balance out the game. And then we move on over to Armored Core 5. Armored Core 5 was released in Japan on January 26, 2012. And a couple months later, pretty much everywhere else. Also of note, this is when Bandai Namco stepped in to be the non-Japanese publisher for Armored Core games. This continued through Verdict Day and through also 6th Gen, as you see today. We're going to kind of skip over to version known as version 1.02. You may notice in Armored Core 6, we didn't have a 1.01, we went right to 1.02. The same thing happened both in 5 and Verdict Day. If that being the case, I don't know if that means there actually wasn't a 1.01, or I just somehow missed the fact the information was out there and I just missed it. If I missed it, by all means, put it in the comments below and let me know, because I couldn't find it. I looked for a long time and never found it. So I'm guessing it might be a similar situation, but I could be wrong. That's just my guess. Anyways, February 24, 2012, we saw version 1.02 was released for Armored Core 5. They made the TE resistant type cores, saw an EN transmission rate enhancement, arms overall stability adjustments, the bipedal legs for medium had lost movement performance. They improved the boost drive. They the heavy bipeds, they decreased the movement performance due to total load. In other words, the heavier your load was, the less speed you moved. I guess they didn't think it was enough of a change, along with some other changes there as well. Reverse joint, they got this made a performance adjustment across the board for legs based on how much load you had. They made it much worse. So underweighting was a little more useful, but the load overall was just causing more problems. Improved energy output overall for generators. I guess they thought we didn't have energy in 5th Gen. ARM units had the same thing. They shortened the attack power and FCS lock-on for a lot of things to make it easier. They made some adjustments to handguns, increasing their power. Shotguns, they decreased their power and made some changes to their firing rate and reload times. They decreased the ammo rate for Gatling guns as far as how fast it revved up. They made a lot of adjustments to a lot of the weapons in this one. The list is huge. They made tons of changes to weapons in this one. This is the weapon update patch. Or regulation version. Excuse me. I keep missing one thing. I keep getting distracted between recording this twice and now a phone call in the middle of it. Ugh. Anyways, keep going. On April 4th, 2012, regulation version 1.03 was released. It was a readjustment of some parameters based on the previous version. They made some improvements to the light leg types control to make them better. The expansion of flash rocket ranges. They increased subcomputer lock-on speed. They decreased the sniper rifle lock-on speed, extended the blade range of blades, and decreased the autocannon ammo costs. Yeah, those ammo cannon, the ammo costs of autocannon used to be nuts. It made some missions next to impossible. And that's all we have for 1.03. For version 1.04, this is when they introduced, there was a myriad, I won't put all here, up on the screen here below or something. They had a slew of part adjustments and balancing in general. What's keynote here, or is interesting I thought about this patch, is that they introduced the new enemy comm system. where enemy ACs you encountered during the story missions could be deployed. This has to do with the unique PvP-based defense system the Armored Core 5 had. So with 5th gen kind of had. So with that being the case, you had you can deploy enemy ACs as part of it, which I thought was interesting. But I thought that was interesting. They added that specifically to this patch version 1.04, and that pretty much does it for Armored Core 5 at this point. So now, last but not least, Armored Core Verdict Day. Armored Core Verdict Day was almost at a near simultaneous global release, but in Japan that would have been on September 26, 2013. Just like as I mentioned before, on Armored Core 5 there was no 1.01 I could find, so we go right to 1.02. On October 23rd, 2013, version 1.02 was released. Slightly improved the damage reduction rate when ricochet occurs. Yes, good old ricochet existed here in Verdict Day. They made some adjustments to the Karasovs and other laser rifles. The auto cannons got a reload time extension. They made some adjustments to the heat pile, had more distance detection on it. And then the weapon arms, the Vendetta, had their blade range increase, because those blade arms in Verdict Day are amazing. They're hard to land, but they get them, they are tons of damage. And the large missile lock-on time was extended, which is good because those large missiles they hurt. So that was pretty much it for the first regulation patch for Armored Core Verdict Day. On Thursday, October 31st, 2013, regulation version 1.3 was released for Armored Core Verdict Day. It adjusted the damage reduction rate when ricochet occurs. Essentially, they kind of balanced it between 1.01 and 1.02. They kind of thought maybe it was too much of adjustments, so they kind of just made it so we're in between there. They made a lot of adjustments to laser rifle parts, to sniper cannons. They kind of adjusted, how much performance you get, because in Verdict Day, if you go into stance with a quad, it affected your how fast you fired, stability, all that kind of stuff. So basically, I made that number matter even more in this version of the patch. They decreased how long it takes to your rail cannons. A lot of your stuff got reduced reload times and increased lock times, and decreased lock times to make it easier to land them. A lot of the CE missiles had their speed adjusted in this one, and their guidance rate adjusted. And also the proximity fuse, or the plasma missiles, things of that nature, all had their things changed too, as far as their overall proximity fuse, as well as improved acceleration and tracking. So that pretty much handles that version 1.03. On November 8th, 2013, regulation version 1.04 was released. They once again adjusted the ricochet rate again. They go somewhere between 1.02 and 1.03, so they're just kind of honing in that ricochet where they kind of like it. They improved heavy reverse joints quite a bit, as far as defensive power and also movement control. This was kind of, I jokingly called this the rifle buffer. The rifles got kind of a buff across the board. A lot of them got some increased distance to power ratio as far as ricochet goes. They made a lot of things easier to hit. They improved the attack power. A lot of these, they increased the accuracy. A lot of them, they increased the projectile speed for the rifles and sniper rifles, even some of the sniper cannons. The shoulder missiles across the board, for the most part, a lot of them got majorly improved stealth. In other words, less likely to be caught or chapped off or intercepted. So the stealth performance was increased quite a bit on these shoulder missiles. I think it covers almost all of them. There might be a couple not on this list. And then on November 14th, 2013, regulation version 1.05 was released. Yes, you may notice, I didn't notice it November 8th for version 1.04. I'm now saying November 14th, version 1.05. Technically, only 6 days later, we are getting this update patch. Notice a lot of these regulations are pretty close together. That was a pretty common theme all through Verdict Day. This one especially was only 6 days apart. Now, you would think only being 6 days apart will only be a couple things, kind of like a hot fix. No. They adjusted how the heavy bipeds function. They adjusted a lot of the other leg parts too, as far as some adjustments go. They kind of tune it down a little bit. They adjusted the heavy reverse joints. They adjusted the quad legs. They adjusted the tank legs. They adjusted some of the rifles and battle rifles. I guess they just in the auto rifles. Excuse me. Yeah, I'm right. Battle rifles, because I guess maybe the things in the previous patch were a little too good. They reviewed the high boostability to improve mobility of ease of use for some of the boosters. They increased the boosters quite a bit in some of these things. Yeah, they just for being a 6 day later patch, they actually changed a fair number of things. Not as big as some other lists, but still a fair number of things. All right, on November 28th, 2013, we had version 1.06 was released a couple weeks later. They extended the range of the blade range of Vendetta from 3 to 5. They increased the TE attack power for some of those parts down there as well. Reverse joint light legs, they made some adjustments to make them a little bit better. Reverse heavy joint legs had their performance adjust a little bit because they're a little too good. They did a kind of an overall movement performance increase for a lot of other parts as well. And a lot of energy consumption changes as far as, like, you know, the KE and CE defense reduction for some of the tanks, because they thought they're a little too defensive before, so they kind of nerfed the defense in some of the tanks in general. They made some adjustments with the ammo capacity for a lot of the handguns. A lot of them got increases. I think they all got increases. Some got major more than others. Rifles got a number of increased initial value as far as speed goes. Their initial value was faster. Battle rifles had the same thing happen. Heat machine guns make it easier to carry sub weapons as far as like the reduction in weight, so they got reduced weight. Pulse guns, you had, shoulder missiles, cannons, lasers, plasma missiles, energy amplifiers, generators, boosters, you name it. Laser blade, laser blade, get in a second. A lot of changes in this patch, tons of changes. 1.06 made a lot of adjustments as far as how things work in general. And then we get to the last one for Vernite. On December 13, 2013, regulation version 1.07 was released. You got the laser blade adjustment. Basically, they made it energy consumption not as bad to make it easier to load more sub weapons onto the parts. In fact, you saw a lot of energy consumption reduction for a lot of parts in this game. For a lot of the parts in general, they did a weight reduction for plasma guns. They did improve ammo capacity for sub units. A lot of shoulder units had energy consumption reduced again to make it easier to put more different parts on and do adjustments. Bomb dispensers had a lot of their things adjusted as far as improved firing rate, and also their capacity was increased for a lot of them. Optical chaff, they made some bigger distinctions for the optical chaff parts. One had a much shorter active time, but really effective. One had a much longer active time, but not nearly as effective. So kind of just to differentiate them a little bit. And the counter guns also saw the same thing, where their magazine and fire rate was increased, and also their energy consumption was reduced for UAVs. Again, help with energy consumption in the builds of the game in general. Whew, that was a lot to go through in a very short period of time. So, as I mentioned before, all the links to all these in the WayBack machine are linked in the description below, so you can see them as they are. But the reason I want to bring this up, because there's a lot of talk with the accidental posting, the removal on the Armored Core Twitter about patch 1.07 for Armored Core 6. I haven't seen them put on posts like, yeah, people are getting new parts. They're hoping all this. People are asking, like, they're talking about new game features. They're talking about, like, okay, look, I kind of want to pull back our expectations a little bit so we don't get too disappointed when it comes to the next part. My expectation is it's probably just going to be a balance patch. That's my assumption. I'm hoping they adjust some parts down, then adjust some other parts up. They kind of bring more in line to get more balance to the game. I'm assuming that's all we're going to get, and I'm hoping it's a good balance too. But I don't think we're going to get new parts. I don't think people understand. You notice when I went through this list, I did not mention anything about new parts. Armored Core 6 is unique in this. When we got that unique, the patch gave us the Lamberger parts, and the new Gatling guns, the new plasma missile, that was new. That was new to Armored Core. We had never gotten new parts aside from just getting a new game in Armored Core. We'd never just gotten new parts mid-patch. That just never happened before. Armored Core 6 is unique in that sense. So that being the case, I don't want people expecting that to happen again when it doesn't. Now, I could be pleasantly surprised. We get new parts. If that happens, great, fantastic. But I'm going to guess it probably isn't going to happen. So please don't be devastated like, well, this game sucks, or From Software doesn't care. Look, this has never really happened before. We have for the first time on Armored Core 6. I would be amazed if it happened again. It would be borderline a miracle if it does. What I'm kind of hoping is maybe some adjustments to how ranked works. That's one of my big hopes. I would like to see the option to go into ranked teams as a team, so you actually can pick your team going into it, and also maybe see some adjustments to how matchmaking works with the dwindling player base. In the online ranked, I think you need to shorten the queue times, and so I think you just need to kind of like remove some of the waiting as far as like rank disparity goes, how long it takes for you to reach out to other ranks to get a match, because as it is right now, you are getting matches at D rank against like A ranks and S ranks, but it's taking like 20 minutes to load. I would not care as much as a D rank going against an S rank if it only took like a minute to load versus 20. So with that being said, if it does happen, great. If not, I understand why they don't. But I want everyone to kind of set their expectations, temper their excitement a little bit to make sure they don't go overboard what they're hoping for. Look, I hope for Pioneers Guys too. I hope for new missions, new ACs, new parts, new soundtrack disc 4. I'll take anything. Like new Armored Core is great, but I'm also going into this with a level head, understanding that's probably not what's going to happen. So yeah, there you have it. That is Armored Core's 4th Gen, 5th Gen, kind of the update regulation history in a nutshell, how patches worked in previous Armored Core games, and a little bit of Armored Core 6, and a little bit of future hopes and dreams. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Again, as I mentioned before, please like and subscribe. Most of you guys have not, and I would hope that maybe this is worth your time and maybe even becoming a member. Otherwise, I'll see you on some videos or streams here in the future. I will see you all in the next one.